Hey everyone, Cinephile Mike here, and it is day 61 of Oscar Rewind, my bi-weekly series of videos where I revisit the films that reflect the earlier works of this past year's Oscar nominees and winners. As always, I'll be discussing the awards history for the film, the box office information, the critical response, and as always, these reviews will be spoiler-free. You can find all older episodes here on the YouTube channel or on my website, cinephilemike.com. Before I jump in, please click that subscribe button, click that like button, join the conversation, drop me a comment. So much film knowledge coming! Award season's around the corner! You don't want to miss it. So, today on Rewind, I am here to talk about the 1995 movie, which had the longest title for the year. Miramax Films' The Englishman Who Went Up a Hill But Came Down a Mountain. Funnily enough, Miramax would have that award recognition of longest title in 1996 as well, with Don't Be a Menace to South Central While Drinking Your Juice in the Hood. Fun fact. But we're back to the other long one. The Englishman Who Went Up a Hill But Came Down a Mountain was written and directed by Christopher Monger, based on a story by Ifor David Monger and Ivor Monger. Released in the spring of 1995, the film made a total of $10,904,930 domestically, and interestingly enough, according to Box Office Mojo, our usual source, this made up the worldwide total because there were no international numbers to speak to. Critically, the film is a little on the lower end. From 33 reviews on our usual side from Rotten Tomatoes, the film is fresh with a 67% rating, but on the popcorn meter side, the film sits with a 55% from over 10,000 ratings. As for its awards journey, well, the reason this film is here is for the very enjoyable costumes that fill the screen, evoking the World War I time period with which we are in. John T. Yates, a costume designer for over 30 years, is a two-time Oscar nominee. Her first nomination was in 2001 for designing the costumes for Gladiator, which could potentially lead to a nomination this season, as it is reported that she has designed the costumes for Gladiator 2. And this past year, she was nominated for the lush French Revolution costumes of Napoleon. Obviously, both those films, Ridley Scott, and she is a regular collaborator with him. He's worked with him on over a dozen films in the last 20 some odd years, including House of Gucci, The Martian, All the Money in the World, Prometheus, Alien Covenant, as well as several others. For The Englishman, who went up a hill but came down a mountain, they had that's a long title. I think for the rest of this, we're going to maybe refer to this as The Englishman, just for time's sake. So The Englishman's award season journey was a little bit shorter, which is odd for a Miramax film in the mid 90s, although they were kind of up and coming, because we know that they would dominate in the late 90s and early aughts. But the film had two nominations, one of which led to a win. Cinematographer Vernon Layton was nominated for the Golden Frog Award at the Camera Image Awards, and writer-director Christopher Monger was nominated for the Ecumenical Jury Award at the Moscow International Film Festival. And that, sadly, is where the journey for the film ends. So, what is The Englishman about? Set during World War I, two English cartographers, George Garrod, played by Ian McNeice, and Reginald Anson, played by Hugh Grant, have come to a small Welsh village named Finnengarrow to measure their mountain as part of the war effort in seeing and determining how high different sites are for war benefits. Now, this small religious town is all at church on the day that these two arrive. It's a Sunday. So Garrett and Anson check into the inn with the only person who's not at Sunday service, Morgan the Goat, played by Colm Meaney, and they head up to the mountain to take their measurements. However, they deem primarily that it is only about 930 feet, which does not a mountain make, but a hill. To be a mountain, it must be over 1,000 feet. This does not bode well for the villagers. They are proud that they have this mountain, and they believe it is a mountain, particularly Morgan the goat. They want them to get a more accurate measurement. They know that it's a mountain, which Rod and Anson do. They go back the next day to finally do a more definitive number, and they conclude that the hill, yes, the hill, is only 984 feet. And that is the information that they are going to be putting down on the maps as they prepare to leave to head to their next port site, whatever you would like to call it. Now, quick thinking, Morgan pairs up with the Reverend Robert Jones, played by Kenneth Griffith, who normally they don't get along. Morgan's not a big churchgoer, but they discuss and they decide that, you know, they're suffering. All of the men, a lot of the men are at war. There's tense times. This mountain is what they're proud of, and for their self esteem. And the Reverend even agrees. You know what? We are going to work together. We are going to add 16 additional feet to make sure that our mountain is recorded as a hill. Now, to do this, the town has to come together and plot different ways to keep Garrett and Anson in town while they do this so they can get another measurement before they leave. And some entertaining measures they take to sabotage, lying, and they're even quasi fortunate when a massive storm comes, although the storm also is a detriment because they're piling dirt. And also, Morgan decides to get local woman Betty, played by Tara Fitzgerald, to work her feminine wiles on Anson to get them to stay. And as they keep up all these attempts and all these strategies, they slowly try to build the hill up. But will they be able to do this? There are several factors that get in their way, and they just have to see, can Finn and Garrow be listed as a mountain? Based on a story, this film is based on a story that Monger heard from his grandfather. And you know what? He crafts a really cute comedy about a town coming together. This is not the first film I've seen where, small villages come together. Even recently in the film, The Problem with People, a new very limited release starring Paul Reiser and, funnily enough, Cole Meany. Um, this story is fun and shows what can happen when people come together with a shared purpose. Hugh Grant at this point was early in his career. He was really only known stateside for The Remains of the Day, and especially previous year for Four Weddings and a Funeral. So he's quite charming as our titular Englishman. He has a suaveness that invites you in, and you see why Fitzgerald as Betty has no problem wooing him. McNeice as Garrod is a comical counterpoint to Grant as a more stuffed shirted character. Think a little bit Jim Broadbent in Moulin Rouge. And also as the foil, Meany is a nice presence in this more of a light-hearted role that we don't always see him in. It's an easy film to ingest. It's not too serious, and it knows it. Now, before I get into one major criticism I have with the film, I do want to highlight a few of the technical feats. Yates, as I referenced, does a very nice job in creating the costumes in this and her feature, and which was her feature film debut, save some TV episodes and TV movies prior to this. There's a simplicity and an authenticity to the simple colors of the turn of the century, using only really Betty at times later in the film to have some flares of color. Additionally, cinematographer Leighton fills the screen with some gorgeous sweeping shots of the Welsh countryside that we're in. And as we see the hill getting built up, you have some really beautiful wide shots seeing all the people coming and going up the hill. The main criticism I have is the shift in the third act. This film was really working well about a nice little comedy about a town coming together, but once we introduce the romantic comedy element, the film kind of stalls a bit. Again, nothing against the chemistry Fitzgerald and Grant have, but this wasn't really what the film was working towards. There's no real challenge to this relationship, so it feels a bit superfluous. And without spoiling, Grant Hansen has an interesting journey. And, he has a shift in character which could have been provided by any other means, but again, maybe they were hoping to cash in on his rom-com rep for a time. I'm not sure if this was the original draft or it had been changed. It had been based on a novel previously, so maybe the story's in there. I haven't read the source material, to be honest. I don't know what was changed for the film. But it's unfortunate to me that Monger didn't trust his film and the plot to keep it as a cute town comedy. So in all, the full title again, we'll go back to it. The Englishman Who Went Up a Hill But Came Down a Mountain is a fun, light-hearted film, and I give it a strong 3 stars. Save that forced rom-com element is what kept it from me for being a 4, but c'est la vie. This is a fun little film to watch if you're looking for something light and fluffy. Unfortunately, there are no streaming options available, but you can find the film available for digital rental or purchase on most digital platforms. So, there you have it. As always, if you like what you heard here, please subscribe to the channel, click the like button, drop a comment. Rewind is wrapping up. If you have a film that you'd like to recommend that happened earlier that ties to one of this past year's nominees or winners, drop it in a comment. Let me know. Maybe I'll invite you on to come and chat with me about it. We only have a few episodes left here before we get into awards season 3. You can follow me, Cinephile Mike, on all social media platforms and on Letterboxd. Happy watching, everyone, and until next time, this is Cinephile Mike saying take a break and watch something new.